Welcome to Conversations with Terry McBride. Again, as we explore these ideas together, get underneath the concepts, get underneath the specifics I talk about, and just notice if there's anything that you think you might be able to use to improve the quality of your life, because that's the purpose of these videos, to assist you to begin to use choice to make a difference. You know, I grew up in a positive family. They talked about believe in yourself, set goals. You know, I had gone to church. You know, I'd heard that all things are possible if you believe they are. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you shall have it, you shall have it. I was exposed to books like The Power of Positive Thinking, Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Belief. But when I really started to pay attention to what these concepts addressed was after I was at the University of Washington Hospital, and they told me I'd never come out of this physical challenge, this health ordeal. They said, you're never going to come out of this thing whole. The first book somebody gave me was from a famous plastic surgeon, Maxwell Maltz. It was called Psycho-Cybernetics. I had no idea what that stuff was about. But on page 2, Dr. Maltz says that we have this cumulative belief system we have, if you will. This what we have in here are attitudes, opinions, beliefs. That he called that our self-image. And what he says on page 2, and I quote it in my book, he says, this self-image becomes the golden key to living a better life because of two important discoveries. First, all of your actions, all of your feelings and behaviors, even your abilities, are always consistent with your self-image. And point number 2, this self-image can be changed. And as I read that, what I tied was, my abilities are consistent with my self-image, and my self-image can be changed. Which means that maybe I can begin to study some ideas and principles that will allow me to make a difference in my health. Because allopathic medicine had given up. My doctors had said, you're never going to get well. It's too late on you. And so I began to study these ideas about the self-image, about the magic of believing, those kinds of things. And at first, as I studied and read these different accounts, these different authors, these different articles, I'll tell you, I was just filled with an excitement that there was something I could do to begin to take charge of my life. I mean, I remember there were times I'd read these books and I'd just wiggle like a little puppy. But as I continued to study and read other books and other authors, what I found was this idea that consciousness creates reality, that it was bigger than just a positive attitude, that people were really talking about something we can do with our mind can create reality. But I began to notice there was a huge split in what these teachers meant when they said consciousness creates reality. Now, I liked the idea of using consciousness rather than just beliefs, because when I looked up consciousness, it said consciousness were my thoughts, my opinions, my emotions, and my beliefs. All of this stuff that was up in here. And that if I can take charge of my emotions, my thoughts, my attitudes, my beliefs, I could change my self-image, I could change my ability. But all of a sudden came this big split. And what I found was, some of the teachers who said that consciousness creates reality were essentially saying you can't necessarily change the outcome, but you can change your opinion about the outcome. You can change your attitude about the outcome. And then there were other teachers who said, no, if you really get focused and use these principles to take charge of your creative mind, you can not only change the outcome, you can create the outcome that you want. But there was this big split. That was the challenge that when I talked about in previous videos when I went to see the psychiatrist. And he had all of my medical records laid out on his desk and read me letters from doctors to the insurance company saying what Terry has is not curable. He's going to be left with significant permanent disability. The lower end of his colon has been so involved with the E. coli infection it cannot heal. So he's probably going to have a colostomy the rest of his life. And after he laid all that out, he said, come work with me, and I can assist you to change your opinion about this outcome that's going to happen. You can't expect to come out of this hole, but I can help you face these catastrophic physical limitations with dignity. And I said, I don't want to believe like you do. I know what you guys believe, but I don't want to believe like you do. You see, I'm reading these books, and there are some books that say that if I take charge of my mind, if I take charge of my consciousness, if you will, I can actually determine the outcome. And that's when he said, who do you think you are? Because this idea of taking charge of your mind, it's not just picking one idea and sticking with it. They all intertwine. Who do you think you are? Do you think you have power to change the outcome, or just power to change your attitudes and opinions? And so all of a sudden, this split became real evident. And what I noticed is when I took a different path than some other people I knew, there was a tendency to be made wrong for the path I chose. But I stayed focused on it. I just decided I'm going to read these books and get on track. And what happened is I continued to read and continued to study was I got confused again. There's a whole chapter in my book that talks about it. It says, from the hell I can't to hell I don't know anymore. Because I was reading all these books. I was right in, I talk about in my book, I said I was right in the middle of a list book cycle. The 10 this, the 4 this, the 8 this, the 9 to this, you got to hold your palms up so you can be receptive, although I always wondered if the God I seek is within, who am I receiving from? Don't ask. Okay. You got to have your feet flat on the floor so the energy from Mother Earth can flow up through you, although I was on the 4th story of a steel and concrete building. I never did figure out how that worked. And so what happened was, I found that all these teachers had different lists of things you needed to do before you could create reality. And then I was also in the middle of what I called the sick book cycles. The sick book cycles. The sick book spends the first half of the book convincing you, did this happen to you? Did this happen to you? When you were younger, did this happen? And when you get enough check marks underneath those kinds of experiences, you're supposed to identify. I'm the adult child of an alcoholic parent. I'm the product of a dysfunctional family. That whole question back again about who do you think you are? And so it was really challenging. And this excitement I had about studying these principles got lost in all that I was supposed to do to be able to apply these principles. And then I decided one day, you know what? I'm just going to make it up the way I want. I talk about it. It was a huge shift for me. It said, I'd been trying to incorporate. This is in my book on page 216. It says, I had been trying to incorporate all the different models I was studying into one surefire way that would allow me to create the reality I wanted. And once in a while, I would assert, well, no, I don't think I want to believe that. But there were just too many variables. I just couldn't put it all together. So I decided, if I was creating reality based on my belief, why not just make it up the way I wanted? Rather than trying to select what I should believe based on what other people could prove or what they thought. I could still study what other people thought. I could still read other books. But I would do that from a mental framework of, well, that's one way to make it up. Is there anything within that model, that group of ideas, that I want because it will support me in making it up the way I want? Of course, if you tell that to people, if they explain their opinion and you say, well, that's one way to make it up, but I'm not sure I want to make it up that way. They'll come back to that question we did in a previous video. Who do you think you are? So I started focusing on, what do I want to study? What do I want to believe? And what I began to find was that I could apply these principles of choice to begin to make a difference in my life. I wasn't sure if I could really get well, because they told me the odds were 1,000,000 to 1. But I could study these principles in an idea to begin right where I was and then see if I could make a difference. When you're at the bottom of the ladder, trying to climb your way out, it's a whole different game than when you're at the top of the ladder looking down. And it can be challenging to begin to understand how to integrate these various ideas that are out there based on where you are. The tools of choice are the same. Choice of destination, choice of action, choice of mental environment, emotional environment, and thanksgiving. Those are still the tools of choice, but how you use them at the bottom of the ladder may be different than how you use them at the top of the ladder. Who do you want to study with? What books do you want to read? What do you want to believe about yourself? This is the challenge. Remember, there are some great teachers out there who do not believe that you can take charge of your creative mind. There are some great teachers out there who do not believe, even if you take charge of your creative mind, that out of that you have the power to produce miracles. Because remember, they told me the chance of me getting well were 1,000,000 to 1. I would need a miracle. But I not only coupled the personal growth teachers I was paying attention to, I brought in the spiritual teachings. Jesus said all things are possible if you believe they are. Jesus said, whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you shall have it, you shall have it. And my intention as I studied those sayings was, what was he talking about? Was he really saying that the faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain, and that I can learn how to develop faith? And as I explored those ideas, it didn't seem to me that those teachings were saying all things are possible if you believe they are, but you can't change an outcome. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you shall have it, except you can't have this, you can't have this. The key here in this idea of consciousness creates reality is to understand that different people approach it differently. Some do not believe that what you can do in your mind can change the circumstances out there. I happen to have a different belief. I've been teaching all over this country for 35 years. I have met thousands and thousands of people who come up after I speak or before I speak and say, I know exactly what you're talking about. I had this, and this is what I did, and now I'm well. I had this, and this is what I did. These were my circumstances, and I said no, and then stepped up to a new reality. In all of these thousands of people, there wasn't one simple way to do it. Some people did it this way, some people did it this way. But all of them, when you group them together, all of them in some way or another took charge of their creative consciousness, their creative mind. And out of that, the entire universe moved to support them. You do not have to change for the infinite power of creation to back up your belief system. It already does. You don't need to forgive yourself. You don't need to let go. You don't need to do anything. As ye believe, so shall it be done unto you. The choice you have is, what do you want to believe? What do you want to believe about yourself? What do you want to believe about people around you? You are a unique expression of the divine. And what couples with that truth that sets you free is, once you understand who you are, that freedom is that you eliminate the lie of human limitations. I don't know what you want. I don't know how many challenges you have in your life. What I do know is how powerful you are, how capable you are. And I support you in studying this idea that consciousness creates reality. And then go make your dreams come true. I send you love. I send you joy. And I send you power.